Hello, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're looking at a rifle that sits right at the intersection of history, hunting legend, and wartime desperation. The Winchester Model 1895. For decades, the name Winchester meant one thing: the lever action. The classic rifle of the American West. Fast, reliable, and beloved by hunters and frontiersmen. But by the late 1800s, this iconic design, perfected by the great John Moses Browning, faced a massive problem that threatened to render it obsolete. The world of firearms was changing faster than ever before. This wasn't just a new model. This was the last great attempt by Winchester to keep the lever action competitive in a world suddenly dominated by high-powered military bolt-action rifles. The Model 1895, designed in 1895 and produced until 1940, was Browning's final lever-action design for the company, and it was a masterpiece of compromise and innovation. It looks like a classic lever action, but under the hood, it's a technological turning point. To understand why the M1895 had to be invented, we need to talk about two revolutionary changes happening around the turn of the 20th century: powder and bullets. First, gunpowder changed forever. Gone was the old, slow-burning black powder. In came smokeless powder. Think of black powder as a slow fuse, and smokeless powder as rocket fuel. It burned much hotter and faster, creating significantly higher pressure inside the barrel. This led to powerful new cartridges, rounds that could push a bullet faster and further than ever before. These new high-pressure rounds demanded a much stronger mechanism than Winchester's traditional lever guns could safely provide. Second, the speed demanded a new bullet shape, the spitzer bullet. That's just a fancy word for a pointed, aerodynamic bullet. Spitzer bullets flew straighter and further than the older, rounded-nose bullets. Here is where the massive problem occurred. Winchester's classic rifles used a tubular magazine, a metal tube under the barrel where cartridges were stacked nose to tail, like coins in a roll. The analogy for grandma: imagine stacking pointed darts in a tube tip to tail. Now, imagine shaking that tube violently. If the tip of one dart hits the sensitive ignition cap, the primer, of the dart in front of it, you get a catastrophic internal explosion. This is exactly what happened when you loaded pointed spitzer bullets into a tubular magazine and fired the rifle. The recoil could cause the bullet tip to strike the primer of the cartridge ahead, detonating the magazine. Winchester was forced to discard its most iconic feature to stay in the game. The M1895 was John Browning's radical solution. He completely tossed the tube magazine and replaced it with a fixed box magazine. This magazine sits right beneath the rifle's action and holds the cartridges in a single vertical column, typically 4 or 5 rounds total. Because the cartridges are stacked vertically, one on top of the other, the pointed nose of the bullet never touches the primer of the cartridge ahead of it. Safety problem solved. This design change was monumental. It meant the M1895 could finally handle modern military and big game cartridges with pointed bullets, like the U.S. military's .30-40 Krag, and later, the mighty .30-06 Springfield. Crucially, this rifle incorporated a strong rear locking bolt mechanism, making it the strongest lever-action rifle Winchester ever built. It was an extraordinary effort to perfect the lever-action system, giving it the ballistic performance of the new bolt actions while retaining the fast, cowboy-style cycling action that Americans loved. This was Winchester's desperate, brilliant move to save the lever action from obsolescence. The M1895 didn't just survive, it thrived, thanks largely to one famous customer, Theodore Roosevelt, Tr. Tr was an avid hunter who understood the power of modern rifles. For him, the M1895 was the perfect combination of speed and stopping power. The rifle's legacy is most intertwined with a massive .405 Winchester cartridge, introduced in 1904. When it was introduced, the .405 was the most powerful round available in an American-made repeating rifle, delivering tremendous energy suitable for the world's largest game. In 1909, after leaving the presidency, Roosevelt set off on his famous East African safari. His arsenal included 3 M1895s chambered in .405. He used these rifles successfully against dangerous African game, including lions and rhinoceros. Roosevelt famously wrote about the .405 M1895 in his book, African Game Trails, referring to it as his medicine gun for lions. This powerful phrase quickly evolved in popular culture into the legendary nickname Big Medicine. TR's personal endorsement instantly cemented the M1895's reputation, proving that an American-designed repeater could stand up to the challenge of African megafauna, a market previously dominated by heavy European double rifles. The M1895 story isn't just about hunting legends, it's also about World War. When World War I broke out in 1914, the Russian Empire suffered catastrophic losses and desperately needed rifles, any reliable rifles, as fast as possible. Winchester received a colossal contract to supply the Tsar's army with nearly 300,000 Model 1895 rifles, representing about 70% of the rifle's entire original production run. These rifles were chambered for the standard Russian military cartridge, the 7.62x 54 mmR. To make this lever action usable on the front line, Winchester had to make significant military modifications. The most important was adding stripper clip guides to the receiver. This allowed Russian soldiers to quickly load 5 rounds into the fixed magazine using the same metal strips they used for their standard Mosin-Nagant bolt actions. They were also built in a long musket pattern with a bayonet lug. Although Russia preferred its domestic Mosin-Nagant rifles and only bought the M1895 because they needed guns delivered urgently, the M1895 proved effective on the Eastern Front. After the war, these rifles continued to see service in conflicts across Europe, including the Spanish Civil War, where many were captured and repurposed, often bearing Spanish arsenal marks today. Despite its strength and wartime service, the M1895 was ultimately defeated by economics and technology. Manufacturing the M1895 was complex, requiring costly machining and hand fitting. After World War I, the market was flooded with cheaper, mass-produced military surplus bolt-action rifles that offered the same performance for far less money. The Great Depression delivered the final blow, and original production ended shortly thereafter. The Model 1895 stands as the final, magnificent attempt to make the lever action viable in the age of smokeless powder and pointed bullets. It was the absolute pinnacle of that design lineage. Today, the M1895 is highly sought after by collectors, with original models in powerful calibers like the .405 Winchester fetching high prices. Fortunately, Winchester continues to honor this legacy by producing modern limited edition replicas, often chambered in .30-06 and the famous .405 Win. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the legendary Winchester 1895. If you enjoyed seeing the intricacies of this fascinating mechanism, remember that the visual breakdown in this video is based on the incredibly detailed virtual model found in the game world of guns, Gun Disassembly. We encourage you to check it out.